Alrighty, this is build off week 5. It's gonna be a little video, little update. Haven't got much done. I'm actually in the process of moving now, so it's gonna be a while before I get back at anything. First of all, the nightmare of the white SUNSTAR Chevy 2 Novas stripping the paint and finding paint stripper that still strips paint. Well, all the parts stores didn't have shit, but I happened to go to another one today, or the other day, and they had this, and it still said aircraft remover. I had my doubts, but it worked. This is probably going to be my final draft car. As you can see, she stripped it pretty good. Same with this guy. So what have I done? So, biggest issue I decided to try to take on was, this is a 63 hardtop, so it's got no post. And my father thought his car was a 64. We don't speak, but it didn't have a VIN or anything, or ready or anything. Come to find out, it's a 65. So not only is the post different, but the rear window does not come around the back side at all. It's actually only in the back. So there's quite a bit of differences. I made my window pillars. Let's see if I can find them. Mess in here right now. So made these out of brass. These will go just like so, and they do fit in there nice and tightly. Also gonna do one that goes around the back. Now, I had somebody recommend going ahead and trying to do the rear window, which is something I've never done before. So he recommended JB Weld. What I did was I took some 010 styrene, got the shape of the back window, and basically kept cutting until I got it how I wanted it to fit. And then I drew on that styrene where I wanted the new lines to be until I got a smaller one. Now, I taped that in there with masking tape, and I used JB Weld. I don't think it really set up that great, but as you can see, it's definitely going to be able to be possible. Like I said, this might not be my final draft car, but I still want to have the molding look, as well as on the 65 the molding continues all the way around here, even though there's no window. But that was just a quick job there. For the next one, I might do actual wood. This is some real shitty wood, but I might just sit there and really take my time until I get it exactly how I want it, and use that instead. But anyhow, I made some progress there. My Bondo didn't stick. I used glazing putty the first time, so this time I made sure it was nice and warm, and I used actual Bondo filler. Still not done. Gotta do the other side, but You can see the differences in cutting I've done here. My clearance, I'll be able to see the good old radiator in there. And just to have more space. Another thing that they do on the 65s is instead of having the chrome molding around here, it's actually molded into the body, and it's body color, not a separate piece. So as somebody pointed out, couldn't you just paint it? That would be great, but there's a really big gap between the chrome and the car. Just bad fitment from a cheaper model, so this is also just a first draft, but that's the chrome piece. Bondoed in, still got to be sanded and everything. I plan to try that. And then also change the taillights as well. But another thing I got going on, been working on, is my suspension setup. So what I originally did was took some, what is this? 3/32 brass tubing. Just stuck each side in a vise, drilled some holes. I'm gonna have to redo my K-member, but the problem is I don't have much room for a tire, a spindle, be able to actually turn and still have a functioning suspension. So the upper, I'm still not too haven't really figured it out, but these are gonna go in here like so. They're gonna come out just like an A-arm, and these will function. Also, I went ahead and ordered myself some of these in a shorter version without the big reservoir, whatever you want to call it. So that'll be mounted on there. And there's going to be a part of the roll cage will come up and go into the firewall. That's where the smaller one of this will mount into the A-arm. And I got these. These are really cool. I got them from RB Motion. They make all different sizes. They make some that are just crazy small. Sorry, trying to wedge my phone here. These are actually the big ones, believe it or not. There's only one size bigger than this. But they are miniature rod ends. And in the bigger sizes, they also come with sleeves. So that's what she looks like. This is part number 1510 from RB Motion. And that guy should slide actually that's the bigger one. It'll slide into the 3/32 brass tubing, perfect. This is 1/8" tubing, but it comes with little bushings as well as little detail nuts. I really wish these were threaded. That would be awesome, but they're not. So bear with me here. Little detail nut. I don't know if you can see that. That'll slide right on there. They make small ones you can use for throttle linkages, stuff like that. And then slide the bushing on. If I wanted to use this larger 1/8 inch brass tubing, she fits like a glove. So, those are kind of neat. Those are going to go on the end of each of my A-arms. Both ends are actually just the frame end. And on the car end, I have these little M3 brass nuts. I have some M2 nuts on the way. And I'm going to have an M2 nut that will set right up against this. Picture a triangle. I lost my other one. And I actually don't know what I did with that wheel. Oh, there it is. So, gonna do something like this. I'd basically cut that down and solder a M2 or M3 nut onto that, separate this wheel, and use a screw to bolt it right to it. Then that M3 nut is gonna set on the M3 nut that'll join the two A-arms together. Those will pivot off the K-member. So it'll be a nut upright too as well on the back of that. And then I'll be using a square tubing. Or actually, you know what? I'm not going to use the square tubing. I'm going to use anyway, I'm going to use a round tubing that I can slide a smaller diameter into, and it's only going to be about yay long. Shock's going to mount to the top portion as well as the tie rod, and what that's going to allow for is I'll have my suspension, my sprung suspension, which I'll have it set at ride height, wherever that may be, and the coil spring will allow me to push it down, obviously. But then having the two brass pieces that slide in and out of each other, there we go, just like so. Since the bottom of the spindle is going to be the bigger one, that's going to allow the wheel itself to drop away from the shock mount and the tie rod mount. That way, if you want to lift the car up, even though the suspension travel is fully out on the shock, this slide motion with this spindle will allow me to, you know, do one of those guys. So that's another idea I came up with. Lots of ideas, not a lot of time. Still not sure what I'm using for a rear end. I got a guy on eBay that's helping me design a set of center lines for me, because I really don't like any of the ones that I've found so far. Gonna go ahead and split the difference between these two sized rear tires. In my opinion, those are the right here is just a little bit too small. And this guy, just a little bit too big. So I'm going to split the difference with that. And I already measured all the tapers and everything in the wheel for this wheel. And I'm basically going to mimic all the lips and everything from this wheel, except run the center as a center line. Gonna have it be two pieces so I can still use the screw in the center to hold it on. And then same with the front. And that's my plan so far. So I didn't really make much progress. I'm still gonna make front of my trans tunnel. The roll cage is gonna, the way I made this is I used thin brass for the flooring. I believe it was 0.02. I don't know, it was too thin. So I took these little 1/2 inch by 32 maybe, fairly thick for strength. And I made the width, the exact width for frame rail to set in there, nice and snug. So this will get a couple brackets that come out to mount to that, and then there'll be a couple more that'll mount to the roll cage. The roll cage is gonna set on an M3 or an M2 nut everywhere a bar comes down, and that way, probably an M2, that's too big there. Maybe even inside the roll cage, maybe an M1. That way I can use it as a mounting point through the bottom of the car, up through the roll cage that you can't see. Yeah, that's about it. I had some more parts laying out. I had a little jig I was going to show you more about how I'm doing my suspension, but I lost one of them and some stuff got moved in the move. But, so, lots of body work that I'm not used to. Basically everything on this model has been a new deal for me. This turned out kind of soft. I mixed it correctly for JB Weld, but I think I'm going to end up having to redo that. And I'm going to grind this body line away, give it a nice contour, and haven't decided how I'm going to make the new molding line. Probably just good old sanding. Maybe putting something behind it when I put the new JB Weld on. But it'll probably just be sanded. She's coming along. I'm a sucker for working suspension, so you can get these on eBay for about 15 bucks. I put a smaller spring in it. This is actually usually longer than this even, but this was originally for a truck build. But it's going to be about 10 millimeters smaller than that, and it's not going to have the extra reservoir. Even with that said, it is still not to scale, obviously. But definitely check out RB Motion for all sorts of cool little knickknacks like this. I spoke with the guy for about, I don't know, half hour on the phone. He was super cool. Let me return anything I didn't want. This kit here, which came with 4 of the rod ends, 4 detail nuts, and 4 of the bushings, was I want to say $7, which that's not too bad. It's all handmade on lathes. He's also got shocks and stuff, and he makes a ton of stuff for Formula One cars, you know, pre-existing models. He's got a guy that's got actually more than just a guy. He's got guys that have $25,000 plus models that are actually buying detail parts from him to make more detailed. So, sorry, I'm sure this was a bit of a rant, but that is my build off week 5 update. Week 6 and week 7 probably look just like this. Thanks. Love what you guys are doing. Love the page.